breaks down to two camps. If you look at every single emotion, they are in two camps. One is love and one is fear. So anything that isn't connected to a love vibration goes and falls in the category of fear. And anger generally, if you want to boil that down, that ends up coming from fear of abandonment, the separation that happened, fear of rejection. It's all connected, and anger is the face of fear. So the repression of the emotion that is behind the face, which is interesting because that Aleph
yeah. That's face.
That literally is a word that also means face. It means face and it means anger. So face, the face of anger, you are absolutely right. Fear is what's underneath it. When we do not have Lamed, when we do not have that in the center of our being, the authority of the inward man, we haven't tamed the anger, and that underlying vibration is fear. So I'm really glad that you asked that. So yes, absolutely.
I would say that what we don't know, we fear. When we know, we have reverence for. And so we can translate fear into reverence by the integration of being taught how to speak and become the face of.
Yeah.
And so I no longer doubt nor fear my own face. I have much reverence for how I become that vibration. So yes, absolutely.
Well, and what you're just saying, that also we fear the things that we don't know. The Lamed is connected to knowledge,
right?
And it's about learning and teaching and compiling and putting together. So you will have, when people don't know, they have fear, but one of the ways that they mask fear through pride is through anger. Like if you start uncovering someone, and let's say that they're speaking like they have authority on something, and the gate isn't there, and you start throwing questions out at them to help drill down, because you're wanting to assist, you're actually wanting to be a teaching shepherd to poke, prod, and sting. But if you're going to do that, you better be the vibration of that. Otherwise you're just picking a fight with two immature sovereigns. But when we're doing that, what ends up happening is that if somebody still has a lot of fear, they will rise up in anger against you. Because it's really, we don't like to have that place uncovered in us, to where the ego, because the ego never wants to be found out. It tries to hide, but it can't hide because it gets exposed quite often. And the one thing that it does to mask itself and mask its fear is to launch out in anger.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Hopefully that answered. At least that's been my experience in dealing, especially with the trend of strong narcissism that we have seen in the outward expression. There is so much fear underneath that bullying, and that's really what it is. It's a scared child that has been so afraid that they've raised up in that anger and that boisterous voice, because they're not even recognizing that fear, and they don't want to be exposed as not knowing or not having the answer, or uncovering their nakedness, to use that in a general term.
This vibration, but again, fear and love live in the same space, but they fully neutralize each other in the level of the Alephim. They know each other very well, because one is like a stepping stool that reached to the high mark per se, but it's in the refining, it's in the definition of extrapolation to remedy fear by knowing what fear is. It's like the enemy, right? Oh, I know the enemy, or I don't. If I don't know my enemy, then I'm fearful of his tactics. But when I know the enemy, I know the tactics, and therefore I'm no longer fearing. This is you. Fear is based on the job description of us knowing ourselves. And so in that vibration, we can collapse to fill back up, but fear is still there. In the greater revelation of what it is only an expression that has allowed you to see yourself more clearly as lovely, right? But it's still there. I still can take all my composites and assembly of fears and look at it, and I can say thank you to them correctly. I can collapse it and say thank you for what once I was fearful of, but now I see it as but a stepping stone to ingather love. But you can hear people in the vibration, and you can hear fear in their voice, and it simply is just an equation to say, oh, you just don't know yourself yet.
Exactly. Because when you do know yourself, you get established with that Lamed. The Aleph frequency, there is no fear. That's all been dealt with. This is the absolute state of being that comprehends the outer world is a reflection of the inner world. And so therefore they don't fear because they know that everything is coming into their frequency, they're drawing. So they literally don't fear any of that because it's bringing lessons within. That's just the quantum field that is lined up to bring to them in their creation that which they're drawing to themselves. So this is perfected love. This is absolutely perfected love. That's why I said earlier on, this is returning to our first love, because it's now been perfected, because the authority of the heart that's within there, which means that fear no longer is ruling us. What is ruling us from the inside out is love. It's the absolute state of being back as the first love.
Again, if you can see fear correctly, if we can, and this is the power of your question, Michael, and thank you for this question. It's a really good question, because if we can if we can close the distance and what fear is, we can actually be a little bit more face to face with it and recognize it, to see, oh,
I see you.
I see you. If I'm
see
feeling something fearful, I can see it on someone else. But when I feel it myself, if I'm on the other side of this, by extrapolating this question out, I can simply see it now. I couldn't see it before, and I was under fear. But when I overstand fear, I can now comprehend fear to overstand it. And so I can integrate through the processing of what fear is as it's presenting. And I can say, why am I fearful here? I have no need. And so for I allow the experience, because it's testing me. It's going to test all of us to see, are you resolved in fear? The only way it can do that is to present itself to you. But when you allow it to translate through you, I simply integrate into its vibration and say, I have nothing to fear. I'm resolved. And I allow the expression to do what it needs to do, so I would know what fear is and I know what fear is not.